This is All India Radio, Power of Listening. Under the series, tonight we take you on a journey to the world of yet another magnificent facet of the traditional Indian knowledge systems. I am Manoj Mainkar. Ayurveda, which means the science of life in Sanskrit, is an over 5,000-year-old medicinal practice with its own multifaceted philosophy involving an individual's mind, body and soul. The three original Ayurvedacharyas, respectfully called Brihatrayi, were Charaka, Sushruta and Vagbhata. In today's episode, we shall be focusing on Acharya Charaka and his contributions to Ayurveda. The experts on the show are Dr. Ambareesh Khare, Ayurvedacharya, Sanskrit scholar and Indologist, and Dr. Neelima Thatte, medicinal professional, Pediatrician, Sanskrit scholar and Indologist. Stay tuned.
Namaskar. Welcome to this episode of Power of Listening. We in India have a very long tradition of indigenous medicinal science. We find references right from Vedic period. During the course of time, various treatises have evolved. Today, we will try to know more about these from Dr. Ambareesh Khare. Dr. Khare is Ayurvedic consultant himself. He is Assistant Professor of Sanskrit and Coordinator at Sri Bal Mukunda Lohia Center of Sanskrit and Indological Studies. He is also in charge head of the Department of Japanese Language at Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapith, Pune. He is BAMS, MA Sanskrit with Vedas as special subject and PhD in Sanskrit. He has travelled to 9 countries as a part of his academic visits. He has 7 books and 32 research papers to his credit and has presented 27 papers at international and 38 at national conferences or seminars. He is principal investigator and director for 4 ongoing projects, and no wonder he is the recipient of more than 25 awards and scholarships. So I welcome Dr. Ambareesh Khare.
Thank you, Dr. Thatte.
Sir, first please tell us about the different knowledge systems which were present in the ancient period, of course related to medicine.
Sure. When we think about the medicinal practices in ancient India, the first name comes in front of us is Ayurveda. No doubt that this term itself denotes the science of our Ayu, that is life, and therefore this is the most important and prominent stream of knowledge regarding medicine. However, there are other systems such as Siddha medicine, or we can also think about yoga, which deals with mind and body. Overall, we can understand that whether it is Ayurveda, Siddha or yoga, all these knowledge systems deal with both the mind and body when they consider overall health of an individual.
Okay, so as a common person, we do know about the terminology Ayurveda. So we would like to know more about it. Who were the pioneers of Ayurveda?
Here, when we think about the tradition of Ayurveda in particular, we are told by the tradition that the knowledge of Ayurveda was in the beginning present in heaven. From the gods like Prajapati, Indra and Ashwini Kumaras, it came down to earth, and there were some seers who were the recipients of this knowledge, first-hand knowledge right from the gods. Then these seers distributed this knowledge by teaching their disciples, and then different compositions of the Ayurveda were made by these disciples.
Okay, so this is the divine connection of Ayurveda, so to say. But what was the situation before Charaka? The prominent name what we hear is Charaka. So what was the situation before Charaka?
Yes, actually the tradition of Charaka Samhita is related with a seer called Punarvasu Atreya. He was the recipient of the knowledge received from gods, and he taught this knowledge of Ayurveda to different disciples. One of the disciples was Agnivesha, and according to the tradition of that time, we are told that Agnivesha wrote a tantra or a composition, and it was famous by his name, that is Agnivesha Tantra or Agnivesha Tantra. In the course of time, there was a necessity to revise this tantra, and this job was done by Charaka. So we get to know that Charaka Samhita is actually an expansion of Agnivesha Tantra, or it is based on the Agnivesha Tantra. This Agnivesha Tantra is no longer existing in front of us. However, the Charaka Samhita is with us in modern times.
So what he mainly did was compilation of the knowledge before him, and plus maybe he added few things.
Yes.
But who was this Charaka? I mean, from where he came, where was he residing?
Yes, there are different types of speculations. We cannot say with certainty about few things, but what we gather from ancient sources is that actually Charaka is also a name of a school belonging to Yajurveda. There are different names such as Charaka, Khandikeya, etc. And this name Charaka denotes the meaning the wanderer, which walks or goes from one place to another place. So it is possible that this person Charaka belonged to that school of Yajurveda, or he was a wandering physician who visited different places and treated the patients. According to the researchers working in the field of Ayurveda, his time is probably somewhere between 1st century BC to 1st century AD, but definitely not more than 150 AD. And therefore, we know that this Charaka also belonged to the region of Kashmir, and the speculation is that he was the physician present in the court of famous king of Kushanas, Kanishka.
And he compiled this Charaka Samhita, as you told. So what was the actual construction of that Samhita? I mean, what were the topics covered in it, or what was the arrangement of chapters in it?
Yes, the Charaka Samhita is a large composition divided in different parts. These parts are known by the name Sthana. The first Sthana is Sutra Sthana, where Charaka has given all the information in a nutshell which is present in the Samhita. Then there are different sthanas dealing with one subject each, such as Sharira Sthana, Nidana Sthana, Vimana Sthana, Indriya Sthana, Chikitsa Sthana, and so on. And these sthanas are dealing different aspects of Ayurveda. For example, in Nidana Sthana, we find about the diagnosis of different diseases. In Chikitsa Sthana, the treatment of different diseases is discussed. Or in Sharira Sthana, we get the information about formation and growth of human body and so on.
So anatomy basically is described in Sharira
Yes.
Sthana. Okay, so that was a very methodical arrangement. Coming to present Ayurveda system, it is strictly following this Charaka Samhita, or it has somehow deviated from it? Are there any differences?
Now, looking at the tradition of the Ayurveda present in modern times, how do we look at the Samhita, namely Charaka Samhita? Because this is the most ancient text of Ayurveda available to us, because as I have said earlier, it was composed in 1st century AD, and therefore some basic principles of Ayurveda that were given to us by Charaka are followed in modern times as well. For example, there is a system of 3 doshas, that is Vata, Pitta and Kapha.
Yes.
So this is accepted and followed in the modern times as well. There are different types of treatment such as Yukti Vyapashraya Chikitsa, Satvavajaya Chikitsa or Daiva Vyapashraya Chikitsa. So this classification is also present in modern times. However, we know that with changing time, there are differences of different practices treating different patients, as well as different
Diseases may be
are also originating at different time periods. Some diseases were not present in ancient times that are present in modern times. For example, AIDS, or latest we can refer to coronavirus disease. So there is no reference of these diseases in the Charaka Samhita, as well as some diseases vanish over the time period. For example, there is a disease called Urustambha, which was present at the time of Charaka Samhita, but nowadays we cannot find any person having this disease. So these changes were there, and accordingly the type of treatment, use of medicines was also changed. Some medicines that are prepared with the help of using minerals, metal oxides, etc., were also not profoundly used at the time of Charaka.
And maybe some plants also have vanished and they are not available right now.
Yes,
So,
some plants that are referred in the Charaka Samhita, we do not know about them a lot, and therefore there are some other plants that are used in the place of these ancient plants. Also, actual collection of the plants in particular season, which was done at the time of Charaka, it is not possible every time to do for a physician in modern times. So some different types of medicines are also used in modern times.
okay. So we understand how this Samhita was compiled and all. This knowledge must have been passed from teacher to student orally. But was there any specific educational system, like suppose medical admission, how were the students selected, or was the course designed, something of that sort?
The details of such educational system are not completely available for us to study, but what we gather from the scattered references in the Charaka Samhita, that picture we can create, and there we find that actually we discuss different parts of a treatment. There is a medicine, one patient is there, a physician is there, then there is some assistant who is assisting the physician while treating the patients, and also some disciples who are trying to learn what physician is doing. So we are told about the good qualities that should be present in a student. There is a chapter called Shishyopanayaniya, in which we are told how a disciple is to be selected, what qualities are there
Needed.
in a good disciple, and there we are told that he should not be frightened of easily because of some things that he can see,
Dead bodies
dead
or-
bodies and some things. Then he should be also ready to accept this knowledge from his teacher. He should be very sincere in his studies and so on. And there is a reference of Agnivesha himself, to which I have referred earlier, that when the complete educational plan given by the teacher is fulfilled, after that a disciple is supposed to write a tantra or a composition, and he has to present that composition in front of the knowledgeable physicians. There is a gathering of physicians in which these students used to present their tantras, and if this gathering allows or approves of these written composition, only then he is supposed to practice or announce himself as physician. So this is something like modern PhD viva voce, which is there in different universities.
That's a really very interesting information you have shared with us, Dr. Khare. These physicians like Charaka, you said he was attached to Kushana king Kanishka. So were they allowed to treat common people as well, or only king they were supposed to treat?
It seems that any physician would treat common persons as well as a king, and it is possible that king may appoint a particular physician who is good or who is famous as his personal physician. So the post of Raja Vaidya or physician of the king might be specifically created for the king, but there were certain physicians who were also treating common persons, and it is not so that only famous physicians were used by the king, because they were also available for general public as well. We also come across the physicians who traveled from one place to another. I have referred to Punarvasu Atreya, the seer, first seer of Ayurveda. We also come across a reference of epidemic situation when this Punarvasu Atreya visited that place, and he found that such an epidemic is about to begin. He told his disciples to gather specific herbs, medicinal plants, so that later period it will be easy for him to treat the people on large scale. So we also find the references of epidemic situation because we are nowadays going through this
Yeah.
pandemic time of coronavirus disease. So such kind of situations were there in ancient times as well. There is also a question that when Ayurveda physician is treating any person, he gives medicines on individual level. He checks each patient and gives the medicine. But what to do in the epidemic? So we are told that in epidemic conditions, the basic elements such as wind, water, or our environment is getting polluted, and because of that the people are suffering from diseases on large scale. So if this situation of epidemic arises, he should prepare a medicine which will suit to any patient, and he should disperse them between all the patients.
Okay, that's very interesting. But Dr. Khare, which were the most dreadful diseases that time? I mean, people used to die from which diseases?
Okay, so there are different actually viewpoints about this question. There is a philosophical background to this question also. We get a reference of Kala Mrityu and Akala Mrityu in the Charaka Samhita. Kala Mrityu is the one which is coming to that person due to old age when he completes his natural life given by the gods to him. But Akala Mrityu is unnatural or untimely death, and we are told that there are hundreds of methods by which this death can come to a person, and therefore this Akala Mrityu is to be avoided, and this can be done by the help of Ayurveda. So the diseases are, although dreadful, they arise because of some problem that is present in the person himself. But if he follows the routine life in a particular way, as told in the Ayurveda, according to particular day, particular season, then he may not get those diseases. So in the opinion of the Ayurveda, it seems that although we think that everything is predetermined in the life of a person, it is possible to extend one's life by following the correct diet and correct routine every day and in every season. There are the diseases called as Ashtamahagadas, that is 8 dreadful diseases, and these are discussed in the Chikitsa Sthana by Charaka as well as other acharyas. Jvara is most prominent in them. We know that Jvara is fever. There are different kinds of fevers that are described, and also the description about their treatment has been given by the Charaka Samhita. There are other diseases such as Raktapitta or Gulma or Prameha, that is excessive urination. We know that diabetes is one of the types of Prameha. Then there are some skin diseases called Kushtha, and also Rajayakshma is one of them.
Okay. So to treat all such diseases or maybe general diseases, the medicines were prepared. But the physician himself used to prepare this medicine, or he was having some assistant, because right now we have pharmacists or pharmaceutical companies, but that might not be the case that time.
Yes, actually we get the references of some assistant who will be present with a physician. He is called Paricharaka or Bhrutya, and he may help the patient's treatment when he is in care of the physician. But the preparation of medicines was done by the physician himself, and instead of giving some standard medication, actually these medicines were prepared for every patient separately. So in a way we can say that these are customized medicines that will suit each patient differently.
So maybe the doses or concentration of particular
Yes.
juice was different for
Yes, and that was adjusted according to the need of that patient.
Okay. So in general, Dr. Khare, what was the doctor-patient relation? I mean, treating physician and patient. What was the relationship between them?
Yes, we can see that the patients would come from different family backgrounds, different social status. So we are told that the physician should treat each and every patient as separately as possible. He should not discriminate between every patient because every patient is same for him, and a separate attention should be given to each and every patient. However, for some diseases which are dreadful or not easy to cure, it is sometimes necessary to use some different equipments or to procure some different medicines from forest and so on. So we get the qualities of patient mentioned in the Charaka Samhita, such as he should be cooperative with physician, etc. But one of the qualities is adhya, that is rich. And why the patient should be rich? Because he should be able to pay for such equipments, because in ancient times the hospitals were not as well equipped as we find in modern times, and sometimes it may be necessary for a physician to create an equipment or to procure a medicine specifically for that patient when he comes to the doctor. So at that time, if patient has that money, then it will be possible for a physician to gather those equipments or to get from somewhere, and then he can treat the patient.
So it should be affordable.
Yes.
So very interesting. So were there any fees charged in cash or kind?
Yes, there might have been some barter system, maybe cash, or he may give some cows or gold or some ornament, something like that, or coins must have been in circulation, and by using these systems he might be paying the physician his fees.
Oh, this is really interesting. You have told us about what were the knowledge system, then you talked about Charaka Samhita. What is the situation post Charaka? I mean, is there any tradition continued after Charaka? Were there any additions made?
Yes, as I have told you earlier, it is very much necessary that a Samhita or any such text of Ayurveda should be evolving at every time period or every interval, and it is necessary to update the old text. It is mentioned in the ancient text itself, Sanskarta Kurute Tantram Puranancha Punarnavam. That is, it is a work of Sanskarta who makes or updates the ancient text and gives him a new look. And therefore, if you look at the tradition of Charaka, we will find that Agnivesha Tantra was present at the time of Charaka. Still, it is a question that why he wrote a different Charaka Samhita. He might have used the Agnivesha Tantra as it was, but there must have been the necessity to update the ancient text, and this was also expected by Charaka, that in times after his lifespan, some other people will come forward and revise the ancient text of Charaka Samhita and update it. So there were different efforts in the time period passed between. Some part of Charaka Samhita was also vanished in the course of time, and there was one Acharya called Drudha who rewrote or recomposited all the missing chapters from the Charaka Samhita, and for this work the Sutrasthana of Charaka Samhita was helpful, because as I have told you earlier, in a brief manner, Charaka has described all the things present in his Samhita in the Sutrasthana. So by looking at the Sutrasthana, it was easy for Drudha to rewrite or recompose these missing chapters. So this work was done by Drudha. There are more than 30 commentaries available on the Charaka Samhita. The most famous in my opinion is by Chakrapani Datta, who was in 11th century AD, and his commentary is named Ayurveda Deepika. And by this commentary, he has critically looked at the composition of Charaka Samhita. Many times he has also given different opinions than those are mentioned in the Charaka Samhita as well. But there are other commentators which were before Chakrapani Datta, as well as some medieval commentators are also there. For example, from the Gupta period, that is 4th or 5th century, we have one Bhattara Harichandra who has written a commentary called Charakanyasa. And there are other commentators such as Jajjata or Shivadasa Sen as well.
Okay, so this was almost 1000 years after Charaka, but beyond that nobody has written or added anything?
No.
Dr. Khare, you told us about Charaka in this episode. So, who were other acharyas or other knowledge systems present at that time, or maybe a little later?
Yes. As we have seen about the tradition of Charaka, the Charaka Samhita is the earliest available text of Ayurveda, which belongs to 1st century AD. There are different commentaries written on them. We have also discussed about them. But there were different traditions in the Ayurveda also. Charaka represents the tradition of physicians, as we have referred to him as physician a number of times. But there was also a tradition of surgery, that is surgeons who were actually treating the diseases that can only cured by the help of surgery.
Okay.
And this tradition was represented in the Sushruta Samhita. So this is the second part. And also there was an effort to combine these two traditions, that is the tradition of physicians as well as tradition of surgeons, and that work was done by Vagbhata. So these acharyas are there, their texts are available to us, and these were different traditions, and each acharya had his peculiar field or peculiar expertise of Ayurveda in which he used to work. There is also saying running as Nidane Madhava Shresthaha सूत्रस्थाने तु वाग्भटः शारीरे सुश्रुतः प्रोक्तः चरकस्तु चिकित्सिते. Here we are told that for treating the general diseases, because Charaka is dealing with Kaya Chikitsa, that is internal medicine. So for Chikitsa sthana, the best is Charaka. However, for Sushruta, if we concentrate on that Samhita, the surgery is the prominent part available in that text. In case of Vagbhata, he gives all the details of Ayurveda systems in a nutshell. So that is his speciality. And there is a different physician called Madhavakara who has written Madhava Nidana. So this text is specifically useful for diagnosing different diseases.
Oh, so today, Dr. Khare, in the limited time, you have told so much about Charaka. So in future, we would definitely like to hear from you about Sushruta, Vagbhata and maybe Madhavacharya. Thank you, Dr. Khare.
Thank you.
Acharya Charaka. You heard the 27th episode of our all-new series on traditional Indian knowledge systems, Power of Listening. The experts on the show were Dr. Ambareesh Khare, Ayurvedacharya, Sanskrit scholar and Indologist, and Dr. Neelima Thatte, medicinal professional, Pediatrician, Sanskrit scholar and Indologist. We hope you enjoyed it. This series has been conceptualized by Shashi Shekhar Vempati, CEO Prasar Bharati, and produced by Neelima Patwardhan and Vinod Kumar. Special thanks to AIR Pune, Amol, Parth and Randheer Thakur for their contributions. This episode is also available on our official YouTube channel, Akashvani AIR. Be there on the 8th of April, same time, same frequencies. This is Manoj Mainkar signing off from Delhi. Bye for now.